So when I put this back on, there's the recess for the spring. There's a recess for the spring in the end of the piston. Does it matter which way this goes round? Can it go anywhere? See that little venturi there? One of those O-rings covers that venturi so that it harnesses the air within that air body. Does it do anything? No, actually it doesn't, but it's a body that can be utilised for electric deadman, which has a slightly different end cap and does a slightly different job. So for your pneumatic valve, which operates a pneumatic deadman, that port is null and void, but you have to make sure the O-ring covers that. So the O-ring in the end cap covers that particular port. So there we go, we've popped that back together. Piston, there you are. Piston has recoil and slides easily back and forth. So that's all we're after. Here we go again. 3 O-rings. I don't have a new valve. Smear some Vaseline around it. There's the port. There's the O-ring. So that O-ring covers that port, like so. Start your screws back in there. So remember what I said, you reassemble this. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure that it operates correctly. So again, I will have the pot tender ready to turn the valve on or off to make sure that the valve works. Now, when you buy a new valve, don't just assume that, oh, it's a new valve, it's got to work. Sometimes they've been sitting around for a little while and the piston could be stuck. So every time I put a new part in, I make sure the pot tender is there with me so that if there is a problem, he can close that air valve off immediately to reduce any opportunity of harm. So it's important to remember that safety comes first with these things because they are dangerous. And the velocity coming out of that blast nozzle is around 700 kilometres an hour. 700 kilometres an hour. So it has the potential to harm you dramatically. That's why we take great care when we dismantle anything to do with the pot, that we put it back together appropriately. So if you follow that procedure, you won't get hurt and you get the opportunity to be an old tradie like me that hasn't been harmed from these things because the appropriate procedures have been followed in relation to safety, disassembly and reassembly. So the one thing I do is when I'm doing this sort of work is I make sure I take my time, don't rush it, everything's clean and appropriately put back as it should be. If I'm not sure, I'll ring somebody that does know and follow the instructions on the repair procedure for this particular item. So that valve can now go back into operation because I've established that I may need a replacement for it, but it will work, but I'll test it first. So by testing it, I mean make sure the pot tender's there with me, open the deadman, and the valve will work. But if I didn't want to operate the pot and I just wanted to check that that valve worked, the smart thing to do would be put the air in, put the muffler on, and leave this bottom hose off. So by doing that, the pot won't actuate. So then I can bring the deadman up near this valve, open the deadman, and air will exhaust out the bottom of it. If there's no air, that piston's stuck. So the pot's deemed unusable until the replacement arrives. So isn't that much safer than trying to actuate the pot and the deadman's not turning off? Take the hose off there, open the deadman, air will come out. If no air comes out, the piston's stuck. Simple as that. That's the safest way to do it. So just always think that little bit smarter and eliminate any potential hazards.